Coach, we'll just start first with the circumstances that led to Connor getting the nod and goal today.
Well, we've, I don't know that we've, been consistent there all year long. Jared's done a great job for us. Merce really kind of come on in the last couple of weeks. Jared's, at a point last week, Jared came to me and just wasn't seeing it as well as he would like. And Connor, had been practicing real well. So we put Connor in the fourth quarter of the Maryland game. He came up with some huge saves, and he kept that up all week. So, I went back and forth, a lot of sleepless nights this week, making a decision because, Jared's a senior and he's a warrior and he's done a phenomenal job for us all year. But, I had to take emotion out of it. And, and even when I met with the two of them this morning in my hotel room, Jared, after I dismissed Murph and told Murph that he was going to be the starter, Jared said, "Coach, you're making the right decision." And that's just a selfless act of a young man that is, he's an unbelievable young person, and everybody wants to play, and it could have been his last game, but he was selfless in that, and I'm proud of the way that Connor played.
Talk to him about how Connor stepped up today. Obviously, this is a big spot against UMass in the tournament here, and especially in the fourth quarter, made a couple of big saves the last couple of minutes. If you both talk about, if you want to talk about his performance, and then Connor, if you could just kind of talk about that fourth quarter after you guys got the lead back.
Well, he makes 15 saves. Anytime you make 15 saves, it's you hope you get on the right side of the the ledger, and he's just been doing it all for the last couple of weeks, and even as we started this year, he's had some nice days of practice. It was just a little inconsistent, and then when it started to get more consistent, it was time for Connor to play in a ball game.
And I've just had Jared Madison as a very good role model the whole year, and he's really taught me to be composed in those tough situations. So I just tried to take every shot like it was any other shot, and just play it one save at a time, one shot at a time, and not get too down, not get too high, and just keep moving forward and let my teammates help me out.
Coach, it seemed like looked like one of the turning points was when Walsh got stopped on the shot, but alertly got the rebound and got it right back to McGann for the goal that made it 9-7. Seemed like your bench came to life. Seemed like everybody on the field almost realized at that point that momentum was moving in your favor. Did that seem like a big play for you guys at the time?
Well, I think we've been a team that's scratched and clawed all year long, and maybe that's an epitome of our season. We've had a lot of goals like that, but it was a point of emphasis for us this week. Watching film of UMass, they make a living off those loose balls, and we talked about boxing out. We kind of used the basketball term all week, and we said if we can get our fair share of offensive rebounds, that we'd get some second chance opportunities, and I thought we did a good job on the other side of the ball when the ball went down. My defenseman did a good job. So, whether or not that was a turning point, I just think the turning point was the fact when we believed that we could continue to play with these guys. They're the number one team in the country for a reason. And as I said to my team in the locker room, I'm just so very proud of our hard work.
Did you guys feel like you were in the game and Peter hadn't been much on the scoreboard at that point? Did you feel like there was still going to be a wild card to play because you figure at some point he's going to get a couple?
I was hoping, to be quite honest with you. I don't want to, put the mystery into a forward pass, but we were waiting for Pete to get going. The young man, their entire defense. I don't want to single out one guy. They played phenomenal, and I think Timmy made some big saves. And Pete was getting to his shots; they just weren't falling. There was just, there were a couple that went a little wide. So, it was just when Pete, continues to play and do the things that I know that he can do. I think he started to wear them down a little bit. And he's a phenomenal athlete in terms of his conditioning, and I think it started to show at the end when everybody starts to cramp up, and your guys got a little bit left in the tank. You got to go to that, and Pete did a good job of coming through for his teammates when we needed him.
Pete, was it hard to stay patient in that situation?
To be honest, to the contrary, I think I was a little bit too patient at times and a little bit too hesitant. Had it's a tough environment to play in, certainly. We prepared for that all week. They pretty much did the things that we thought they were going to do. Hedge a lot, not slide too much. They slid to me early, but they're a very talented defense and they recovered well. basically my teammates pick me up. That second line midfield, you get guys who, only have a couple goals all year, and then I think they combined for 4 or 5 today. That really creates space. And I was fortunate enough to, fight through it a little bit towards the end there and get a couple goals. And then that one at the end that was really important. So, credit to my teammates. I have a lot of trust and faith in them, and they kind of carried me today.
Peter, can you talk about what you guys were seeing on the field, especially in the second half, and enabled you guys to put together 2 runs, one at the end of the third and then one in the fourth?
Well, like I said,
What was changing?
with the exception of, I think, to myself, when I was above the goal, they weren't sliding, at all. And so you get that second line midfield in there. They're a little bit more athletic, dodging. They were able to come down the alley a couple times, and no one comes. They just stuck it in the back of the net. Connor Bradish started it off, and then Zielinski had 2, Campbell had 1. They're just coming right down the alley with nobody coming. That's a tough save to make. And then Matt Baker gets a big one on a rollback. So we were just trying to play, be aggressive on their short sticks, and if they weren't going to support them, we were going to score that way. I was fortunate to get one coming from behind the net there where they didn't slide, and then the play you already talked about with Ryan Walsh picking up the loose one. So we just strung a few together, started to realize their goalie was beatable, and that was kind of just let it fall.
You talked to about Connor, the job that he did, and kind of holding the fort till you guys are going and then kind of putting things away.
I mean, it's unbelievable, a kid starting his first game ever in the NCAA tournament, I couldn't imagine that kind of pressure, and he handled it so well. Jared handled it so well, mentoring him throughout the game and prior to the game. He just came in and he was just relaxed. You could see from the beginning of the game his hands were nice and loose. He was relaxed. He was seeing the ball. He was being aggressive, and he just did a great job. He did what you hope your goalie will do if your offense isn't playing well, and that's bail you out a little bit. And this team has a lot of faith in one another, and we had faith in him, and he performed. So it was great.
Could you address whether this game is a surprise to you in the meeting in the hotel room with the coach, or in the back of your mind, you think there was a real good chance you could be starting?
Well, the past 2 weeks, I've been having conversations with Coach, and he's been telling me I always have to be prepared. And it may not be starting the game, it may be the second or third quarter, but I have to be ready to go in and keep myself composed on the sideline and be ready to jump in there on a moment's notice. And I felt like I've been playing well, and inside I felt like I had the support of my teammates, and my teammates believed in me, so it wasn't a surprise, but I wasn't exactly thinking it was a definite thing.
When you were notified that it was going to be your game, take us through your thought process, your preparation, what you were thinking, and what you were doing to get ready.
Well, right after Coach told me, I went back and he talked to Jared a bit, and me and Jared were in together, and he came into the room and just told me I had his support. He was 100% behind me. Anytime I've been in a game, Jared's been the loudest person on the sidelines. He's been the first one out to me during timeouts and at the end of games and quarters. And so he just told me that he's behind me and everyone else is behind me. And then I just tried to stay as calm as I could throughout the day, not do anything different, just stay in the regular routine, and not treat it any different than I would the first game of the season.
Coach, can you talk about your man-up performance there late in the second quarter when UMass got that string of penalties along, and you got 2 goals,
We got 2 extra man goals in the in the second quarter. And watching the film of those guys, we knew that they had a pertinence to foul, and we had to make sure that our extra man was up and ready to go. The first one we had, we kind of, I don't know that we got the greatest shot off in the world, but we just kept going. We kept fighting. It's been a story of this team all year long. We've got 6 great guys out there. We've got 2 specialists that go in Ryan Collins and Colby Wilson. And I credit Coach Abbott with all that he does with those guys. We spent about 40 minutes every week, on extra man, and we probably need to spend a little bit more just because we knew there was the potential for a lot of fouls. In the CAA championship, they had a handful. I think in their CAA semifinal against Towson, they had a handful. So we needed to, we needed that unit to step up. As you look at the special teams, they cancel each other out. We got 2 goals off of 5 opportunities. They got 2 goals off of 5 opportunities. I think that our man down unit did a good job of slowing them down when they got one early, and then did a good job having them go 1 for 4 down the stretch. I think helped us The saves that Murph came up with and the stops that our guys had, continue to give our guys a chance to, scratch and claw their way back into this thing.
Trailing 7-2 at that point before the penalty started, I mean, and UMass was kind of flying at the time. Would you say that was maybe, where you're saying it's evened out with the actual goal scoring, but that seemed to be a real momentum shift to the Colgate side once those penalties began and you guys were able to capitalize.
Well, I don't know about this, me, but it just seems like our team, we like to dig ourselves holes. And, we started the season off with a scrimmage against Cornell, and we're down 13-1 at one point, and ended up scratching our way back into this one. I don't think there was any particular moment. It's just the guys believing in themselves. I think Peter made a good point about it. They all believe in themselves. And one of the things that we've talked about all year long is daring to be different. Daring to be different in any program at Colgate, any lacrosse team that ever played at Colgate, and they continue to do that. And they continue to make me proud to be their coach. And the fact that it doesn't matter, 7-2, 5-1, whatever it might be. They didn't give anybody trophies for the first 15 minutes. You got to play 60, and our guys have done a good job of that. And you credit UMass for taking us to the limit. And we knew that this was going to be a street fight. Being a Massachusetts kid, growing up, I watched a lot of UMass lacrosse games, and being a UNH grad and all that stuff. I told these guys coming in, this is an unbelievable place to play, Garber Field, and there's a lot of history. There's a lot of great players that have come here, and it was up to our guys to bring our brand of lacrosse, and I think they did a good job of that.
Speaking of Massachusetts kid, Connor, how did you end up at Colgate, and was UMass ever a consideration?
UMass was the school I'd always wanted to go to growing up, just because of being from Massachusetts and the lacrosse program they had here. But when it came to being recruited, I was never really recruited by UMass. Colgate, the old administration of Colgate recruited me, and I was impressed with the school, I was impressed with the team, the players on the team, and the friendships everyone had and how close they were, and that's what made my decision.
Looking forward, you got Duke won 12-8 earlier today, so you guys are going to play Duke in the next round. What have you guys looked at them at all, or what are you thinking going forward into an atmosphere and playing against a team like Duke?
I've watched them play a little bit. When you sit on your couch and you want to watch somebody else, yell at their own kids instead of you yelling at yours. And John does such a great job with those guys. And CJ Costabile is an unbelievable player. Their attack is phenomenal. Their midfield is very good. It'll be interesting. Chris Gabrielli's a UMass grad, so I'm sure he'll have a little bit of angst, anger towards us for taking out his alma mater. But I have to get into the film tomorrow. I know what they're capable of, but I'm pretty proud of my team at this particular point.
What about you, Peter, going up against some big guys down there at Duke?
Yeah, they have a very athletic, highly recruited defense. I think our defense matches up well with their attack. I think they have an attackman in Jordan Wolf with a lot of speed. I think we clearly showed today we have a defenseman in Bobby Lawrence that is very capable of defending defensemen with a lot of speed. CJ Costable's had an unbelievable year as a long stick midfielder. Facing off, that'll be a challenge. I don't think we're going to necessarily face a defense that is as physical as the one we played today. That team really knows how to beat you up, and they did a great job. So I think that'll be excellent preparation. But they just have so many athletes, and they just can roll them off. So we'll have to prepare all week and get ready for that. But we're excited no matter who we're playing. We're certainly looking forward to the challenge.
I think Pete makes a very good correlation. You look at this UMass team and how they're built, and you look at Duke. Chris being a UMass guy, they're very similar. Chris Hips out of Texas, Michael Manley, they can roll some big guys off at you. But it'll be interesting. I think they're a little bit more, predicated on sliding and recovering. Dan Wigreiser's had a good year, so we'll do a good job of preparing our guys for the the task at hand. But we're gonna celebrate this one for a little bit.